This is the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Do you have questions about an upcoming exterior contracting project? We've got answers. Welcome to the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Hey, welcome to the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Your questions answered by the pros you trust. My name is Cole. Happy Friday to you. Also, happy Friday to my guest today. You know him, you love him, Aaron Rogers. Aaron, how's it going?
It's going very well. We finally have gotten summer weather, which is kind of nice. And instead of losing multiple days to rain, we're just getting a shower here and there. So it's been kind of nice to actually be able to work 5 full days in a row, which hasn't happened the majority of the month of May. So I'm digging it.
I am grateful for that. However, we're under a heat advisory here. We're supposed to get up to like 104 heat index.
Oh, wow.
Monday, I think.
Interesting.
Grateful for air conditioning. All right, so it's Friday. I know it's been a long week. I thought we would have a little fun. We'd play this game, Would You Rather? We've got this spinning wheel that's going to choose the category. Most of the categories are relating directly to pro exterior services that we offer. However, there is a potpourri category just for fun where we'll just see where the questions take us. Let's jump in. I'm going to be spinning the wheel because you don't have access to it. That's the main reason. You can add your own little clicking or wheel sounds in after the fact if you like. All right, okay. First up is siding. Pretty excited about this one.
Okay.
Would you rather install intricate, detailed cedar shake or straightforward modern vinyl? What would you rather?
Cedar shake, 100%. Not even a question.
Okay. Are you taking that from your own perspective, like if you were doing this on your house, or from a like what you enjoy doing more of for our customer base?
So I'd say, I would say like standard like double four vinyl siding is kind of like the most generic. It's the white bread of siding. So yeah, I would say cedar shake, the like intricate, more cedar shake, because you know at the end of the day, I want to walk away from a project, not just that the homeowner's satisfied, but I want to walk away from a project going, that was pretty cool.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So cedar shake is kind of like the hot honey sourdough of the bread world. Have you heard of that? I want to try that so
bad.
Hot
honey sourdough. I don't know. To be honest with you, my wife makes sourdough. I hear the word sourdough around my house from my sons and my wife far more often than I ever imagined that I would be hearing the word sourdough. My wife makes her own sourdough, and the word hooch comes up quite often. If I happen to be in the, because you have to like actively work on your sourdough.
Yeah, you've got to feed it.
You got to feed it, and then it like this liquid rises to the top, and it's called hooch.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I always thought, hooch when I was growing up, I was somewhat of a country boy, and hooch when I was growing up was always like grain alcohol.
Yeah, something the Duke brothers would be running.
Right. You got some moonshine, got a little hooch.
Yeah.
So,
Dawn recently started baking sourdough bread as well. And if Mary doesn't do this, she needs to. Dawn has made some chocolate chip sourdough.
Okay.
And it
interesting.
Is delicious. But I heard the other day on a podcast, obviously I listen to really manly podcasts. They were talking about hot honey sourdough, and that sounds so good too. All right.
I'll add it to the list.
Yeah. All right. I have spun the wheel. Roofing is the next category. Would you rather replace a roof in the dead of summer with scorching heat or in the middle of winter with freezing temperatures?
Middle of summer, hands down. Winter roofing sucks.
Okay. Let's see. Windows and doors. That's a good one. I would have said that was a good one for any of them. All right. Would you rather replace all the windows in an entire house or replace one very large custom shaped picture window? Would you rather replace all the windows in an entire house? So think just like normal double hung or one large custom shaped picture window.
So my gut says all the windows in the house, but I'm second guessing because if we were installing a very large custom sized picture window, typically those windows would go in an area where there's something really nice to look at.
Mm-hmm.
So my gut reaction is all the windows in the house, but my real, after thinking about it, reaction is just the one very large custom sized picture window because I think there's probably going to be the ocean, the lake, something cool to look at. I don't know.
All right. There's certainly, for a lot of these, there's going to be the pragmatic answer, and then there's going to be the one that tugs at your like creative side. All right, summertime. This makes sense. Decks and porches.
Okay.
Would you rather incorporate built-in seating and planters into a deck design, or keep the deck open and adaptable for movable furniture?
I would say planters and built-in seats. We've done a few of them over the years, and they always come out so nice. And we've done a couple of like custom planter boxes built out of the same decking material and like PVC. And man, I tell you, not only can you use them on the deck itself, but you can like put them around the backyard or around the front yard to kind of like tie everything together. Man, it's always so cool to look at afterwards. So
I remember you saying that no matter how large you build your deck, it's never going to be large enough to do
100%.
all the things that you want to do. I feel like when you do some built-in seating, you're kind of planning already for what the space is going to be used for, and there's no way you can be disappointed then because you've already got that stuff built in.
Well, normally you have to have something around the outside. So normally you would have railings that kind of frame out the outside. If you put a railing in place, you have to put seating up against the railing, and then like a table or what have you in front of that, versus having the built-in seating. And actually, in my personal opinion, would take that space that you would normally put a chair, and it kind of already has it in place. Yeah, decks are a lot like garages. If you build a 1-car garage, you're probably never going to park a car in it. If you build a 2-car garage, you'll park 1 car and then have enough area for your stuff. The garage is never ever big enough. You always find ways to fill it. So
I could have used a trigger warning before you mentioned that one. Okay, we're sticking with decks and porches, and I like this one. Would you rather deal with constant rain delays when building a deck? You just talked about how you're enjoying this slightly drier weather, or discover unstable footings after pouring concrete? So either constant rain delays or unstable footings after pouring concrete. You have to pick one. It's how the game works. I know what I would pick.
I'd say, man. So say it again. So it's either constant rain delays, so you can't really make any progress, or it would be bad footings. Now, did we build off of those footings, or it's just we poured the footings and now they're unstable?
I'll say you discovered it as you're about to build off of those footings.
I would say I'd rather discover the unstable footings, because that I can fix. I can't fix the. Right. Yeah, I hate rain. Rain ruins everything.
All right. As a former gopher / grunt for a construction company back when I was in college, I would have been the one digging out and breaking up the concrete. So I would have said constant rain delays. But that's just coming from my perspective. All right. I'm hoping Potpourri pops up because I want to ask some of those questions. Dang it. Okay. We're going back to roofing.
Okay.
Would you rather discover unexpected rotten decking during a roof replacement, or a significant leak in a brand new roof you just installed? This is easy.
Well, that's an easy one. I never ever want to hear about leaks. Not to say that we never have leaks, because anybody who ever says that is not being forthright with you. 100% rotten decking, because it's something we can, we deal with it on a daily basis and swap out some decking and keep on trucking. So
we usually plan for a certain amount of plywood to,
we pretty much always have plywood on the job site for protection, for protecting the driveway, protecting plants, decks, what have you. We can work around rotten decking pretty simply. So
All right, gutters, gutter guards, kind of the unsung hero of the roofing system and your home's exterior, popped up on the wheel. Would you rather install seamless aluminum gutters on a straightforward home or copper gutters with decorative hangers on a custom build?
That's tricky.
Really?
I'd say copper gutters.
Yeah.
Because I would feel, yeah, but see, but it's one of those things where, like, at the end of the day, it'd be more fun to install the copper gutters, but it's not fun installing copper gutters. Like, at the end of the day, you'll be, more satisfied knowing that that's what you did versus like just plain Jane seamless gutters. But it's not like a fun installation. So,
are you welding or soldering or brazing? How do you put copper how do you combine two pieces of copper with gutters?
I mean, there's a couple of different ways, but yeah, normally we'd be kind of like soldering the joints together.
Okay. All right. Potpourri. I'm not going to lie. I spun the wheel until Potpourri popped up. So I rigged the game a little bit. Would you rather tackle one massive exterior remodeling project, for example, full siding, full re-roofing, like maybe somebody came to you and was like, listen, we need a new roof, we need new siding, we need new gutters.
Okay.
Or several smaller ongoing exterior improvements, such as new gutters 1 year, new doors the next. Kind of looking at like take one house and say,
okay,
what would you rather?
I would 100% do the entire full exterior remodel at once. It's way easier to kind of coordinate the projects and have them kind of be installed and work kind of cohesively and more seamlessly if you do it all at one time. And I'm just not a very patient person, so
kind of there's less disruption to the homeowner. I mean, maybe more at the time, but
yeah.
All right, we are back to roofing. Would you rather work with a client who insists on a trendy, unproven roofing material or one who wants the most basic, cheapest option available? So two very different types of clientele here.
I would say probably the more trendy option. Yeah, I'm. Normally when we work with somebody who, when we say the word cheap, I would say cheap is a red flag. If you want the most economical option for like what works best for you, I'll give you an economical option. But when you're meeting with a homeowner and they say, I just want the cheapest thing I can get, then typically we're not a good fit. I don't want to do cheap things. Cheap things typically fail prematurely. And, regardless of whatever I say, it's not going to be your fault for picking a cheap material. It's going to be the contractor who installed its fault. So sometimes those customers, you just got to be like, yeah, I don't think we're going to be the best fit for you. I think what you want and kind of what we offer just aren't going to be in alignment. So
yeah, and we put our name and brand on everything we do, and that ultimately represents us too. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, windows and doors popped up on the spinning wheel. And so my question to you is, would you rather deal with significant water damage around old window frames or discover asbestos insulation during window replacement?
Significant rot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Asbestos siding we deal with all the time, so that's not really a big deal. But when you start talking about asbestos insulation, that's a completely different animal. Now you're talking about bringing in like an abatement company, and that's not.
I don't know if I've ever shared this story on here or not, but when I was in elementary school, we had this after school open roller skating in our gym.
Okay.
I think this is true. I don't think this is a fever dream I had. It ended up being canceled for, I forget how long of a period of time, maybe many months, because they discovered that there was asbestos in the flooring in the gym. And so we were all roller skating on it and potentially allowing the asbestos to enter the air.
Yeah. I mean, asbestos was used in so many building products throughout the years. Did you say 90s? That wasn't true. That's
elementary school.
That would have been 70s for you, right?
Oh, that's right.
70s.
Right.
Yeah,
It was in
so-
the 1900s, regardless, as my
yeah,
kids like to point out. Like, you were alive in the 1900s?
100%.
Yeah. All right. Gutter guards pop back up. Would you rather work on a house with a complex roof line that requires many gutter corners and downspouts, or a simpler house with long, straight runs?
I would say more complex, short runs.
I was
Yeah,
on
I
company
like that better.
cam yesterday, and for those of you that don't know, Mike, or Oz, as many people call him, is the guy that gets sent out to a lot of the jobs that need repairs done, and he's kind of like the expert craftsman around here.
Yep.
And he recently got this little pointer finger that he uses when he takes pictures. But he was on some job that we did gutters for, and I guess I just always assumed that there was a standard, like, here's the expectation for where gutters go and where they don't. But this house had so many different eaves, and
Yeah.
it was so complex. And there was some question as to, like, well, why did a gutter go here but not there? And
Yep.
anyway, I always thought it was just, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. That's close enough to Potpourri. I'm going back there. Oh, I think I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask anyway. Would you rather work on a historic home with all its unique challenges and period-specific materials, or a brand new build with all the latest technologies and simplified processes?
See, that's tough. You know what? I love old homes. I love working on historic homes. We work on a ton of them, especially here in town. The entire historic preservation committee.
Yeah.
We jokingly that if I'm not there at the monthly meetings, they're like, "Oh, you must have been out of town." So it's yeah. I'm gonna go with the historic house. I like them. I like challenges. We do so much of the things that we do. So many of the offerings that we do who are pretty like standard. We do the same thing day in and day out, and
Yeah.
not that you get bored with it because it's still fun work, but you definitely like when a fun project comes up or a more challenging project comes up, it's definitely one that makes you perk up a little bit more. So 100%, I'd say the historic home, but there will be days on that project that are not fun simply because I personally live in a house that's 1864. I remodeled that almost exclusively with my own two hands. There is never a day where you don't scratch your head and going, what? Why would anyone do that? And then especially if you're dealing with an older home that's been remodeled like every 50 years for
Mm-hmm.
it's been remodeled 3, 4, 5 times. Some of those remodels were, it was interesting. So you can see the progression of either the quality of the contractor they used or the type of code that was out at that time. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
the trends that we've seen. We
yeah.
redid our kitchen when we were living in Bel Air, Maryland, about 10 years ago or so. And we went to redo the flooring on the kitchen, and there was like 3 or 4 layers of different kinds of flooring. And anyway, shout out to a couple weeks ago, Aaron shared one of his Hall of Fame projects down in Ship Carpenter Square in Lewis. And that was certainly a unique project.
That was a fun one. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to come down the home stretch here. We're going to stick in the potpourri category because I think they are the most fun. And I want to know the answer to this one. Would you rather spend your time using the tools and doing the physical work, or in the office managing projects and quoting jobs?
Hands down, I'd rather wear tools.
Okay. Yep, I knew that one. Would you rather specialize in one aspect of exterior remodeling, for example, just roofing, or be a general exterior remodeling contractor?
General exterior remodeling. It's what we do now. Roofing's fun. It's quick. I'll say it's easy because you do so many of the same. Most roofs are pretty much straightforward, the same thing day in and day out. It gets boring really, really quick. Even though like I'm not the one installing them, it's so monotonous.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that the people who get the least amount of respect on those job sites, all praise goes to the guys that are up on the roof, when it's cold, when it's hot, spring and fall, when it's decent to fun and to work in that environment. But shout out to Josh, supervising those job sites, being on those job sites for say 10 or 12 hours at a time. I could never, ever, ever, ever do that. It is just, in my personal opinion, is one of the most boring things in this world. I can only really equate it to watching paint dry. I like to be moving. That's why I say I'd rather wear a tool belt. I like to keep moving. I'm not naturally an office person. It's not necessarily fun for me. So shout out to Josh. I don't know how you do that and stay sane.
Yeah, it's people like Josh and the crew that make those roofing jobs seem not mundane, but routine.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of attention to detail. But yeah, you don't strike me as the kind of guy who likes to be tied down or the kind of guy who wants to do the same thing every single day.
No.
Yep. All right. Speaking of our crews, would you rather have a fantastic crew but struggle to find good leads, or have tons of leads but constantly deal with crew issues?
Cool.
You got to pick one or the other. One or the other. We all know what the real answer is. You'd rather have both, but you can't. That's not what the game is.
Man, I think I'd rather have a fantastic crew but have less leads.
All right. We've got 3 final questions.
Okay.
And I will issue a trigger warning for anybody listening who is currently running a contracting business or has ever done so. Would you rather deal with a supply chain delay that pushes back a project by weeks, or a sudden, unexpected increase in material costs mid-project?
Delays. I'd rather have the delays. Delays can be explained way easy. I mean, we dealt with it. We dealt with both of these scenarios realistically throughout COVID. There was times during COVID where like we were getting material increases every month, every other month, but the delays in materials are something you can explain. It's very easy to enter the home and say like, hey, you could pretty much have everything you want, but just as an FYI, if it's anything but say these color choices or these style options, we have no way of saying when we have availability to that.
Yep.
It required a little bit more hands-on with suppliers and saying like, what can we get this week? What can't we get? The sudden increase in materials, we dealt with that in the beginning of the pandemic, where we kind of had some projects that were like, okay, this is a stock material, and we'd sign a contract, we'd get a deposit. If it's a stock material, we necessarily don't schedule it for delivery until right before.
Mm-hmm.
And we took delivery, say 2-3 weeks later, and in between there, it had a price increase that, we end up having to eat that cost. But yeah, when you're dealing with a rather large investment on your home, and you're going into it with, say, it's a $20,000 project, and on the day you go to start, or in the middle of the project, somebody's like, yeah, it's going to cost you an extra $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, whatever. That's never fun.
Yep.
The whole thing about like contractors and loving change orders. I tell everybody, nobody ever believes it, but we hate change orders because change orders typically it causes, in some cases it's a trust thing. Some people have kind of the stereotype of like contractors just, they bid low and then they just change order to make up the extra. I personally don't like change orders because that means the job didn't go as expected. Mm-hmm. In some cases, it could be something as simple as like $150 change order for some plywood, or it could be like, hey, this all has to be redone. We're looking at an extra few grand, 10 grand, 20 grand, to ultimately do what you need to do. We can't, and especially like the part that sucks about that is like when you're in the middle of a project and you can't stop. Like, let's say you've already opened a wall up, you've already started, you've already removed the existing structure, and you're starting to like, you can't just stop and say, okay, well, we'll just not do it if it's going to cost that much. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of price increases.
Yeah,
touched a nerve on that one.
I think that's what I would have guessed you would have said. All right, last two. Would you rather be known as the fastest exterior remodeler or the
Nope.
most meticulous?
Most meticulous.
All right. Yep. That's easy. Last one. And I think I know the answer to this too, but I'm going to ask it anyway because it's on my page. Would you rather exclusively work with high-end custom materials or focus on providing affordable, not cheap, affordable, durable options for the average homeowner?
Affordable, durable.
Okay.
Yeah. Latest, greatest materials come and go all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of those.
Yep.
It's cool to work on them every once in a while. A new product comes out. First time you get your hands on it, it's always fun because it's a new product and that's awesome. Some of them come and 2 years later they get bought out by another corporation and then that product goes away. Yeah. If you look at just as simply as like the vinyl window industry, I can't tell you how many vinyl windows we deal with all the time that is like, okay, well, that company was started in 1987, was bought out by this larger corporation in 92, was sold to this other company in 95, and in 2002, it was dissolved. Yeah, I can think of at least 10 or 12 just off the top of my head of vinyl window companies that came on with the newest, latest, greatest version of a vinyl window, and then they're gone. So,
Yep. All right. Well, hopefully our audience got to know you a little bit better today. I think in a different way than if we had just did a deep dive into a different subject or topic. And I had fun spinning the wheel. So nothing else.
yeah,
I had a good time. Aaron, thank you for answering honestly, as you always do. All right. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
All right, that is all we have for you today on the You Ask the Pros Answer podcast. Would you please continue to get the word out about the show? I know I ask that every week, and thank you to everybody who is doing that. The best way to do so is to leave reviews on Apple Podcasts. Simply tell a friend or follow us on social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram. Also, if you are watching this on YouTube, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Before we go, we want to hear from you. What are some of the questions that you have, maybe for Aaron or for Pro Exteriors, or maybe just questions related to exterior home remodeling? Please send those questions to info@askproexteriors.com and put "You Ask" in the subject. If you are facing an upcoming home project, we hope that this episode has in some way empowered you to tackle it with confidence. Remember, knowledge is power, and a little bit of research goes a long way. Until next time, happy homeowning. The You Ask the Pros Answer podcast is produced in-house by the Pro Exteriors team. Pro Exteriors is the exterior contracting division of Empire Construction Group, LLC. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. For more answers to your questions, please subscribe to this channel and podcast so you'll never miss an episode. Do you have an upcoming home remodeling project? Find more answers to your questions at askproexteriors.com. Hey, thanks for watching this video. Would you please help us out by hitting that subscribe button? That would be awesome. Also, if you never want to miss another one of our uploads, please be sure to hit that notification bell. All right, thanks. See you.